Well, hello, amazing people. How are you guys? We pray that you are well, safe, and I'm really excited because we are about to have an amazing conversation on today. And so I'm buying a home. Yes, I am purchasing a home, and you might be in the same boat that I am, and you are going to be a first-time home buyer. And so there are terms that you need to know. If you have watched our videos before, you know that we have had so you want to buy a house, a kind of part one, two, three. And so we're continuing in this stead and wanting to be able to provide you guys with the content, the information that you need to know on this journey of you purchasing your first home. So if you have not watched our So You Want to Buy a House, our first home buying seminar, you guys can go back in the video. The link I know will be below. You can go back and watch the seminars that we've had to be able to kind of help you to apply what we're going to be conversing about today along with what you are hearing from the seminar. So you can be able to merge the two and you can be able to understand the process and the journey that you are embarking on. So it's going to be so great. I'm super grateful. Y'all know I call her Auntie Dana. So she's here. We're going to have a great convo. So I'm really excited about her lending her ear, her time. For this conversation. And also, guys, in your city, in your state, you say, hey, how can these things apply to where I live or maybe where you desire to live? You know, we have an amazing real estate agent. We have the Holland Homes team right here on NexGen. Damon is absolutely awesome. And so make sure you guys can, if you have questions, concerns, reach out to him. Say, how does this apply? You know, maybe you might live in another state. How does this apply the information that I'm learning on today to where maybe I want to live, or maybe you're moving somewhere else? So definitely reach out to us. But I don't want to hold up the amazing conversation that we are going to have any longer. Auntie Dana, thank you for joining us on today. I'm really, really glad. This is going to be such a good conversation on terms that we need to know.
Thank you, Ariel. I really appreciate you taking the time to even want to know the information. A lot of times we think of home buying as intimidating because for most people, it's the largest purchase that we're going to make. And sometimes people have pleasant experiences and sometimes people have not so pleasant experience. So I think, with the So You Want to Buy a Home series, we're actually giving people the tools that they need to have a pleasant experience. Everybody's situation is different. Growing up, my family, a little background about me, my family was a military family, so we moved on a regular basis. So my parents did not see a need to purchase a home. Now, both my mother and father, their parents were homeowners. So having a home was a little foreign to me because, like I said, I grew up in a military family. And then I joined the Air Force. And so I was in military family housing for the most part, did rentals for 1 or 2 years, but pretty much was in military family housing. So I purchased my first home in 1996, and that was very intimidating. Now, I was able to use my benefits, my VA benefits, but I knew that there were other products out there. So that was 1996. Then fast forward to 2018, I purchased my second home. And I tell you, it was like starting all over again. So I wanted to talk to Ariel and everyone else who was buying a home for the first time to let you know that it's not a difficult thing to do, but it can be intimidating. So the more information you have, the better. So thank you so much, Ariel, for taking the time to want to learn and to share the information with others.
I'm so glad to be here.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So I was thinking, during the home buying process, people are going to be talking to you about things, terms that you've never heard before, or terms that you're not familiar with. So what I'd like to do is to actually go through the home buying process and then introduce some terms and also let people know that if they didn't know, now you know. And if they have any questions or they have any comments, or if we're having a conversation about something that they need to know, definitely put it in the comment section. And of course, we will include the contact information for the Holland's Home Team. So when you're buying a house, my recommendation is the first thing you want to do is you want to create a budget. And this is creating a budget if you have not done so already. And we've been doing, I think since last year in the Me Inc. series, we started out with creating a budget for those that have not done so. And for those that needed to do a little tweaking of the budget, we have this out here. So this is going to be a dialogue. So Ariel, if you have any questions, I know you're going to ask it. But the reason why creating a budget is so important is because you need to know from purchasing a home, a lot of people would have rented their property or where they live. So the difference between renting a property and purchasing a property is you need the budget to know what you can afford as far as a down payment is concerned, closing costs, the monthly payments you're going to be making. So that's the added expense that you would not necessarily have to deal with when you're renting a property. Also, when the mortgage lender does a debt to income ratio, it's going to be very different from your budget. And we're going to talk about that. Also, you would need to know your assets and liabilities because when you're buying a house, it's for a point in time. And that's the information that's going to be captured. So it's a good idea to know what your assets and liabilities are.
That is so good. I'm going to jump in here because, budget is like not a good word, right? Like, that we are like a budget, like, no. In creating this budget, how should we get started? Because it is not deemed, maybe the best word, but it is going to be the most profitable when you're wanting to purchase your home. And so this is how you begin. This is really how you start. And so what is that, or how would you suggest that we get started in creating that budget? So we see our closing costs, we see, make sure that our take home, our pay, our expenses, all the things we have to be able to put together. What would be maybe one or two things you would think that we can say, hey, this is how I start? Because a lot of times we never want to do something because it's like, where do we start? We don't know where to start.
Okay, now we do have a video that kind of goes in depth, and I'll link that in the card above or even in the description below. But the first thing you want to do is you want to write down in your income from various locations, whether you get it from a job that you're working or from your business. You want to write home what your take-home pay is. Now, we talk about gross pay and net pay. Now, the gross pay is what we'll just do for employers just to make things easy. So let's say your employer gives you, let's say for your job, $75,000 a year. I'm just throwing that out there. That is your gross pay. That's what we call gross pay. Now, what you receive in your paycheck is totally different. So if you receive $75,000 a year for your particular job, you may only receive $60,000. So your budget is going to be based on that $60,000, what you actually receive. Now, changes can be made to that. For example, if you want an HS health savings account, that also, or if you want to have an investment, the pre-tax dollars, that's different. So that's why it's important to concentrate on your take-home pay. So from your take-home pay, what you're going to do is you're going to actually document all of your expenses. So it could be your rent, it could be your utilities, it could be your credit card bill, it could be for those that have student loan bills, different things that that your money, food, transportation, if you have a vehicle that you're paying for. So you want to document from what you receive to what you're paying. And then, and for those that tithe, let me not forget that. For those that tithe, and for those that give to charity, or for those that have a savings account, you want to make sure all that's documented. So when you look at that, it's a snapshot of what your income is minus your outgo and what you have left. And this is important because how the mortgage company is going to do it is very different. And at the end of the day, it's you making the monthly payment, not the mortgage lender. So when we talk about debt to income ratio, what the lender is going to do is they're going to use your gross pay. They're going to use the $75,000. And as far as the for the income, they're going to use your gross, not your net. For the debt, what they're going to use is, let's say that you have a habit, or a very good habit, of paying your credit card bill off in full. When they do the debt, they're going to actually use what the minimum payment is. So it's basically apples to oranges. So that's why it's important for you to create your budget. Hopefully that made sense.
That makes such great sense. This is a great starting point. So if you guys have not created your budget, or if you have a budget and need to be able to add those things that Auntie Dana said, I think that would be really great. So this is a great starting point. I'm excited to where we're about to go next. So I have created my budget. I am creating my budget. I'm going to add all of those things. And so where am I going to next? Because I am understanding this is so good. I hope you guys have shared this, sent this to a friend that wants to be able to purchase a home, or they want to be able to say, hey, this is a great way to start.
Okay. It's the most uncomfortable thing, and you're just going to be doing tweaks throughout the month, but I promise you it is the most beneficial. So after you create your budget, the next thing you want to do is you want to check your credit. Now, we also did a video on that, and so there are at least 3 credit bureaus that people report your credit to. And you don't know which one the mortgage lender is. There's TransUnion, Experian, and I get off the top of my head, I can't remember the other one, so forgive me. So you don't know which one the lender is going to use. So what you want to do is you want to get a credit report for each one of the credit bureaus. And what you want to do is you want to check your credit report for errors. Notice I didn't say for negative information. You want to check it for errors. And if you find any errors in your credit report, you want to get it corrected as soon as possible. And the reason why you want to do this is because that is what the lender is going to be using to determine whether they want to give you a mortgage. So it doesn't cost anything to get a credit report. You can ask for all 3 at the same time. And it doesn't reduce your credit rating to do that, because you're asking for it for yourself. And some credit unions and some banks also provide what we call a credit rating, but they usually do it with one of the 3 credit bureaus. So that's why I recommend that you get the credit report from at least the 3 credit bureaus.
Okay, that's so good. So you can either, if I hear you correctly, you can either be able to go to your bank and or along the lines of the 3 credit bureaus, and to be able to get and understand, and if you something that you don't understand, or you see like she said that might be wrong, not negative, you want to be able to get that fixed in a good amount of time, so that way you can be able to keep going in this process, in this journey that you're on. So that's so good.
Right. Now, annualcreditreport.com, if you go there, you can actually get all 3 at the same time. and you can look at them and you can check them for errors and then get them taken care of as soon as possible. Now, you want to do this before you talk to any mortgage lender.
That's good. Okay. That's important, y'all.
Okay, so you ready to go on to the next one?
I'm ready to go on the journey.
Okay. Okay, now these are some terms that you would want to know. And the first term is when you're doing some shopping for a mortgage, you'll see annual percentage rate and you'll see interest rate. And you're like, why? And these going to be like two sets of numbers. And you're like, what are these numbers here and what do they mean? So the annual percentage rate is higher than the interest rate, and that is the rate that includes a lot of closing costs and fees that we're going to talk about later on. But they also have the interest rate right next to it. And the interest rate is what you're going to be paying against the principal balance. So let's say that you have that you want to get a mortgage, let's say for $250,000. We're not there yet. I'm just explaining the terms. So let's say that you have an interest rate of 3.5, but the APR of 4. The annual percentage rate you're going to use is the 3.5. And discount points, and now when they talk about discount points, a lot of people are concerned about the interest rates that they're paying on their mortgage during the term. And when we talk about terms, we're talking about how long you want to have the mortgage for. You may want to have it for 8 years. You may want to have it goes as low as 8 years. You may want to have it for 15 years, or you may want to have it for 30 years. And usually each one of those terms has a different interest rate. And a lot of times people are concerned about the interest rate being higher. So what they'll do is they'll pay what they call discount points, which is money applied to the mortgage to reduce or to change the interest rate. Then they have what you call private mortgage insurance. Now, one of the things I'd like to talk to people about when you have a mortgage, what it's comprised of. And we've talked about this before. The mortgage is comprised of, let's say for a $250,000 mortgage, it's comprised of the principal balance, which is $250,000. And then you have a principal payment, which goes towards the mortgage to reduce that $250,000. Then you have the interest payment. And usually in the first 14 years of a 30-year mortgage, the interest is higher than the principal. And the principal, as I said before, is what is used to reduce the mortgage balance. Then you have what they call escrow. And escrow is comprised of, and I can show you in a spreadsheet later, what that's comprised of is the homeowner's insurance, which is a requirement from your lender, and also real estate taxes, which is also a requirement of your lender. So instead of paying those independently, a lot of times the mortgage lender will package that and have what they call escrow. So they'll take the total of your homeowner's insurance and your tax, and that's what it is for the year, and divide it by 12, and that's what is added on to your mortgage. Now, the private mortgage insurance is different from homeowner's insurance. The private mortgage insurance is basically, and I hate to be offensive, but it's basically saying that the lender needs insurance that you're going to make the payment. It does nothing to your mortgage. It doesn't reduce anything. It's just assurance that if you default on your mortgage, they have an out. And it's usually if you don't have what they call 20% equity. So we said, well, Dana, what does equity mean? Well, equity means, let's say that you have a mortgage of $250,000. but the home is appraised for $300,000. And we'll talk about appraisals too. So if it's appraised at $300,000, but you took a mortgage of $250,000, the difference is $50,000, which is what we call equity. Now, let's say that you took a mortgage of $250,000, but it's the appraised value of the house went down. And that can happen to, let's say, $200,000. The difference is $50,000, but it's what we call negative equity. And usually we see negative equity when we purchase a vehicle. Now, in 2008, a lot of times people saw the value of their house go below what their mortgage is, and that's what we call negative equity. The other term is fixed rate mortgage or adjustable rate mortgage, and it's exactly what it says it is. If you take out a 30-year mortgage and it's fixed rate, it is fixed, but we talked about the 3.5, it's fixed for the life of the mortgage. If it's adjustable rate, it changes. It can go up and it can go down. Usually I see people look at adjustable rate mortgage when they project that the rate will go down. And a lot of times that doesn't happen. So personally, I prefer the fixed rate. And if I need to change the rate for whatever reason, I can what we call refinance. And we can talk about that later too. Now, another term that we need to know is rate lock. And this is what we mean by rate lock. Let's say that you were looking for a house last year, and let's say not last year. Let's say that let's say today you started looking at a house, and the rate for a house right now is 3.5. The house, when you're buying a house, the process can take as long as 60 days from the time you made up your mind to purchase a home until we go to closing. And when we talk about closing, we mean get the keys to your property. The rate can change. So when they talk about a rate lock, what they're saying is we're going to lock in this rate. If it's 3.5 today, we're going to lock it in so that if the rate goes to, let's say, 5, 6, or 7 when you're going to closing, it doesn't matter. We're still going to work with the 3.5%. That's the rate you're going to get, the interest rate. And I did talk about equity. Now, when you're going to a lender, they can do two things. They can either do what we call a pre-qualification or a pre-approval. So when we talk about pre-qualification, what the lender is going to do is they're going to look at, when they're saying a pre-qualification, is they're going to look at what you have in your bank accounts, any assets that you may have. Let's say you have another home. Let's say you have some other things. They're going to look at your assets to see what amount you would qualify for if they were to lend you money. So hopefully, did you have any questions on any of the terms I used?
I know that I'm going to review this video again because you guys know that was a whole wealth of information as it relates to these certain terms. But no, it definitely, you explain them greatly. Excuse me, this is a process. So I love to know that at least 60 days. It's like this is not what I love that you're explaining, is that this is not a microwave moment. A lot of times we can be, and we want things to be quick, but this might take a second. We don't want it to take too long, of course, because we want to be in that home. But this is going to take a second, and we're having to be in the process. So this is good. This is great.
Well, as far as microwave and we want it quick, the fastest purchase I had ever done was 3 weeks. Now,
Wow.
Yeah. And the reason why is because I paid cash. I did not have a mortgage lender. So That's the shortest. So if you have cash, then you definitely could have a shorter period of time. Now, keep in mind, you may be ready to purchase the house, but there are things that are done on the other side, on the seller side, and we'll be talking about that too. So we have what we call pre-qualification, and that's why the budget and checking your credit is so important, Ariel, because doing the budget and checking your credit will actually speed up the process because a lot of things you'll already have. So we talk about pre-qualification. Let's talk about getting pre-approved. Okay, now this is not everything, but this is when you're talking about pre-approved. This is different from pre-qualification. So when you're buying a house, this is how you know that you're getting pre-approved. When they need to have your social security number, your date of birth, a 2-year history of where you used to live, a 2-year history of where you worked, income verification, and also a list of your monthly expenses. If you're going to borrow $250,000, they're going to want just about everything. And this is not only let's say that you're going to a financial institution like Navy Federal or Bank of America, but you have income or you have assets in other banks. They're going to want all that information. And you'll have that because you've done the pre-work that we talked about. So they want just about everything to include your firstborn if you have one.
Okay, y'all, these are the things that we need to be pre-approved. Make sure you guys are taking notes. And these are all the things. This is really, really good. Now, I do have a question though.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
if we often talk about let's see, if someone, maybe we might have a millennial that maybe started their own business or is self-employed. Does that, and I know we might be able to answer it maybe in the comments or come back to it at a later video, does that change at all? Maybe that might be something we can be able to ask Damon. Does that show, would it still show consistency? Would that be something that would be alarming?
For the most part, if you can show it for the past 2 years, that's basically what they're going to be looking at. A lot of times the lenders are used to dealing with people that have W-2s and those types of things. Remember the gross versus the net? But if you have 1099s, or you can show specifically on your bank records, you can show that you have a history of income. For example,
Okay, that's good.
that I retired in 2020. So if I was to get a mortgage, they would not have a W-2 to look at, but they would actually see that I did have income. If that makes any sense.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay,
But that's
that's good.
definitely a question I would ask Damon. Definitely. We would definitely have to talk about that.
Awesome, awesome. That's good. I'm ready to go on the journey. Let's go.
Okay. So the like I said, the pre-qualification, they're just going to ask you a few questions just to get an idea of what you can be approved for. But when we do a pre-approval, that's going to require more documentation to include pulling your credit report. And they need your permission to do that. So when you're going to have to sign a lot of documents to include allowing them to pull your credit report. And the credit report is not free. And again, remember, we don't know which one they're going to use, which one they use. Different lenders use different credit bureaus. So that's why I made the suggestion that you look at all three. And there may be an error on one, but not on the other. And that's why it's very important to look at all three. And I believe it's like $15, $16 to pull the credit report. But when you get a mortgage with them, they will actually, you can actually recoup that cost. And that's for the people that are concerned. But there are some costs in getting a mortgage that you would be paying upfront before you even get the home.
Okay, this is good. Good, good, good. Thank you.
Okay, so you're getting pre-approved. Now, what's the next thing? Ooh, you've got to select a real estate agent. Well, I mean, that's my recommendation. And you want to select a real estate agent that you're comfortable with. And there's two types of agents. There's the buyer's agent who works for you. Then there's also can be a seller's agent, and they work for the seller. Now, these real estate agents, they receive their compensation, they receive their pay by the purchase and sale of the home. And the buyer's agent is paid by the seller. So the seller pays the compensation to the buyer, and the seller usually is a percentage of the purchase. And it's like 6%, and it's usually 3% for the buyer and 3% for the seller. That's usually how it's divvied up, or how whatever agreement that's made. But just know that the agent that you use, you're not going to be compensating them. It's going to be the seller. Now, one of the things that I want you to know is, what I would like you to know is that you have to be comfortable with that real estate agent. Now, the real estate agents that I've dealt with, a lot of them have access to things that is not available to the public. A lot of the full-time real estate agents, they know about houses that are on the market and off the market. So if you go on the website and you start looking for houses that you might be interested in, just know that real estate agents have access to more properties that you don't even know about. And also, because the real estate agent can show you, I think the one agent that we actually interviewed last year, he told me that he showed me well over 100 homes. And usually when a real estate agent is working for you, and that's their job, is to work for you, they also do the paperwork, by the way, too, when you want to make an offer. So they do a lot of work. So a lot of times they would want you to sign an agreement to say that they are your agent. They're going to work for you. And I caution you, if you're not comfortable with that agent for any reason, do not sign the agreement. You make sure that you're comfortable with that real estate agent. Interview them and find out if they can meet your needs. And if you have any question about that, I definitely recommend that you contact Holland Homes team to ask, who should I be looking for when selecting an agent? Because there are some that are very good and there's some that are very challenging. And this is something that a lot of them do full time. And you're a new home buyer, so there's some things that you don't know. So we put a lot of faith in the home and the buyer's agent, and that's why it's very important for you to get one that you're comfortable with, one that returns your phone call, one that is, again, one that you're comfortable with, and one that it can get you to where you need to be. And I can tell you, working with the Holland's home team has been a very rewarding experience, because I was actually able to purchase property in another state, and they made it seamless. So did you have any questions about that?
That is good. I definitely I will say, to be able to add, guys, on our, I want to say, on, it was either on our first or second so you want to buy a house, we did also give some, Damon also really gave some really great information. So I don't know, we might have to have a have a part 5, 6, 7, but to be able to answer more questions. But some of the things I know he explained in our first two parts of our series. So make sure you guys go back and give those videos a thumbs up and share it, because it's really, really good information to kind of get you started in the process. But an amazing team, an amazing team. Damon is awesome. So yes, no, that's good. So I am now, I am going to be doing the research. Let us find that agent.
Okay, so you have an agent that you're comfortable with. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They have listings of houses that they want you to look at. And so let's get on with the get on. Let's go ahead and find that home. So, what you want to do is you want to, I know that right now that people are saying that it's a seller's market, but there's a lot of people out there that are looking to sell their home to someone. I'll give you an example. The last house that I purchased was from someone, a husband and wife, who had been in their home for 20 years, and they wanted to sell their home to someone who was going to take good care of their baby, if you will, their home. Because being there for 20 years, they have a relationship with their neighbors. So they want to make sure, especially if they had a pleasant experience in that neighborhood, that they want to sell that home to someone that will love their home as much as they did. So you want to take the time to, and that's why a real estate agent is so important. Now, you can purchase a home without a real estate agent. You definitely can do that. But I strongly recommend that for your first time out, you definitely want to have a professional with you, and you want to dedicate the time to look for a home. And with that trusted agent, you need to let them know the type of home you're looking for. I can remember Dr. Davis, shout out to him. I told him that I wanted a gated, not a gated community, but I wanted to have a home where I didn't have to park my vehicle outside. And if it had multiple levels, that it had a fireplace and it had an elevator. He found me the exact home I asked for right off the bat. So communication with your real estate agent is so important. You want to let them know exactly what you're looking for so that they can show you the homes that you're looking for, the neighborhood, the proximity to schools, if that's important to you, your proximity to work, if that's important to you, the proximity to public transportation, the nightlife, if that's what you're interested in. Homes come in different shapes and sizes. So again, make the time to shop with the real estate agent. They're going to give you things to look at, and communicating with them is extremely important. And oh, by the way, they do have you're going to give them the pre-approval so that they know now your pre-approval may say one thing, but you may, based on your budget, you may have a desire for something else. For example, let's say your pre-approval is saying that you're approved for $500,000, but your budget is saying $250,000. You want to communicate that to the real estate agent so they're not showing you things that are outside of what you budgeted for. Because, like I said before, it doesn't matter what the loan officer or the lending agency approves you for; it's what you can live with.
That's so good. That's so good. Make sure you are, and I really hear, and maybe you can be able to not feel like you have to go. You can have some desires. What I hear, it's like having those things that maybe are negotiables that you maybe want in your home, and maybe non-negotiables, and then find that, and then some things where you might have to meet in the middle, but don't feel like you have to, I believe you can have the home of your dreams. I do. So that's so good. Come on, y'all, let's find that home.
Yeah, and sometimes the home may not have been built yet. So they have what they
Oh,
call new construction. So you don't have now the two homes that I purchased for myself, my personal residence, have all been what we call new construction. So your home may not have been built yet, but if you're gonna look at everything that's within your comfort zone, what you're going to want to live in. Because for the most part, you want to select something that you're going to be comfortable living with 10, 15, 20 years in. And the most important thing that you want to look for is the neighborhood. You want to check out the neighborhood to include homeowners associations. Some people don't want to deal with homeowners associations. They call them HOAs, and some do. So these are some of the nuances that you want to have a conversation with your real estate agent.
This is good. This is good.
Okay, so you've gone through, you driven, you reviewed stuff, you finally picked the house of the homes of one or two homes of your dreams. Okay, I would recommend having a home that you want plus a backup. For whatever reason, something may happen, but I definitely would recommend a backup if you need one. So you find the home of your dreams. So what you're going to do is you're going to make an offer. And usually with that offer, they have what they call an earnest money deposit. And what an earnest money deposit is, it's basically an amount to show that you're serious about that particular property and you want to get the seller's attention, especially if the seller has multiple offers, and they can get that. So let's say that the home is $250,000. You can do, and your real estate agent will help you with this, you can do an earnest money deposit of $1,500, let's say. So the $1,500 you actually are going to pay to show that you're serious about this house. Now, my experience when selling a property is that some buyers give me more. I've had one person give me $4,500. And basically what she was saying was, I don't want you to look at any other offers. I want you to look at me because I'm willing to give you $4,500 to show that I'm serious. So the earnest money deposit is usually with what they call the title company. And the title company, you can choose the title company that you want to work with. And usually the real estate agent is they have title companies that they work with that are user friendly. And what the title company does is, and we might need to bring a title company on, we might need to interview one to let them talk about the process. But what they do is they work with the lender and they work with the seller agent, and they put the documents together so that the title can transfer from them to you. So that's pretty much what the title company does. But what's really important is that the $1,500 or whatever amount of money that you're going to use for the earnest money deposit, that's going to be part of, if it's accepted and everything goes through, then it will be part of your paperwork. It's going to be included. It's not going to be an extra charge, if you will. So when you make an offer, you're going to upload a lot of the documents that your real estate agent is going to provide to you. Now, what I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend that you do is to read each and every page. And the reason why I say that is because it is a contract and you will be held to it. So I usually don't like to do negative, but I'm going to give you a scenario of what could happen if you don't read it. There was information that the buyer didn't understand. And because they didn't understand it, they tried to get out of the contract. Let me tell you the bad thing that can happen and go to the ugly. The bad thing that can happen is that earnest money, let's say I don't want this house because I didn't think it was going to be all of these things, okay? And you didn't read the contract. So a bad thing that can happen is that earnest money deposit that you gave can be forfeited, which means you lose it. The worst thing that can happen is if you your bid was the highest bid, you could be made to pay the difference of what the person that eventually got the house could do. That's the worst case scenario. So I just wanted to make sure that we understood the seriousness of the contract that you're going to be signing. If there's something that you don't understand, don't just blindly sign it. Make sure you understand it. And so, in addition to signing the contract, the lending institution is going to get an appraisal and they're going to get a property inspection. And those are two different things. So let's say that now this is going to be in the contract. And if it's not, you need to make sure of it. If the house, you put a bid in for, let's say, $350,000, you're comfortable with that. But let's say the appraisal value came in at $325,000. The lending institution is not going to pay more than what the house is worth. So you have a couple of choices. You could either pay the difference or have that as a contingent for the contract. And you can negotiate with the seller. You can say, hey, I know I bid $350,000, but in accordance with our contract, we can negotiate a lower amount if it's appraised at a lower amount. Or again, you can pay the difference. That's the appraisal. And what the appraisal does is they're going around and looking to see what similar houses are going for in that area. A property inspection is different. A property inspection can take hours. And what they're doing is they're turning on all the waters. It's a laborious process, but you definitely want to have a property inspection, and that's usually what the lender requires. And in that property inspection, if they find something, you can use that as a negotiation tool. For example, if the hot water needs to be replaced, you can have the seller replace it or have that amount reduced so that you can pay to have it replaced. Different things like that. So the property inspection usually is about $400 to $500, and it is well worth it because most of them do a thorough job. Then you have pest control, and that's usually like a termite inspection and those types of things. So they check for all those things. And the lender may need a recent pay stub. And they also may require proof of homeowners insurance. Now, homeowners insurance, remember I was talking about that? You're going to need to get the homeowners insurance because that's going to be a requirement on the lender. And that homeowners insurance, as I said in the previous videos, goes well beyond your home. So hopefully I answered that kind of gave you an idea of what to look for as far as documents. Did you have any questions?
This is good. And these things, if I'm hearing you right, a few of these, so like your recent pay stub, and choosing a title company, these are things that you can kind of maybe get, looking and get started and kind of put together. So this is really good. This is great.
Okay, yeah, your real estate agent should be able to, since it's not something you do all the time, your real estate agent can help you select a title company that meets your expectations. Now, what I like about some of the title companies, most of them had me coming into their businesses. Now, the last one, they actually came to the house. So,
oh wow. Okay.
yeah. So, you get, and then some of them even offer, well, for me, it's important, but some of them offer military discounts or first responders discounts. So you've got those types that will work with you. So I really appreciate the title companies that are responsive. Now, your most recent pay stub is probably going to go to, we want to make sure that you still have income coming in. That might be what that's all about.
Oh goodness, absolutely.
Yeah, they might be wanting all that. So
Absolutely.
you want to make sure that you didn't fall off.
Like the recent.
Yeah.
So this is good. This is so that definitely brings me at probably definitely at ease, because it's like, oh my goodness, I have, more papers to be able to find, but my agent will be able to help me. So this is great. I love it. We are almost at
You're almost getting the
I
keys. You're
know.
almost getting the keys.
I almost have the keys. I hear them jingling. I hear them. Oh my goodness, I'm almost there. I can't wait.
Right. Now, so after you upload, I mean, like I said, it's a long process, but that's why finding a good real estate agent like the Holland's Home Team, and also if you are a first time home buyer or if you just want to go, they do have seminars that you can get questions answered for your specific situation. So definitely take advantage of that. It's a lot of them are free, so you can either do it online or in person. Um, we're just talking about the process that people would normally go through, and also explaining terms that people don't usually hear all the time. And I think when people try to shortcut the shortcut, that's when they run into challenges. So you've done all this, you've uploaded the documents, you signed, but that's when the fun has just begun. So now we're going to go what they call closing. And what we mean by closing is we're going to close everything out and you're going to get the keys. Okay, so once you do all of the paperwork and upload all the documents, because a lot of times the real estate agents, instead of physically coming to you, sometimes you have notaries that will come to you, but for the most part, a lot of them have you upload the documents and you electronically sign them, which is really good because you can save the paperwork electronically so that you can store them or you can print them out, your choice. But this is when what you're going to be paying when you go to closing. Now, this is negotiable as far as asking the seller to provide closing help. And when we say closing help, we're talking about all these things that you're going to need to pay. And sometimes sellers are willing to pay or share the costs of some of these things. You're going to be paying the homeowner's insurance up front, and you're also going to be paying the taxes up front. And so that's where the APR comes in, and also the appraisal fee. Then we have, remember I told you about the pest inspection fees? Now, I believe for VA, the seller normally pays for that, but everything is negotiable for the most part. And then we have loan origination fees. So on this one example, I sold a property for $286,000, and the veteran that paid for the house, their loan, and that's because the person said it, was $412,000. And the reason it was so high was because for VA loans, if you use it, you don't, for the most part, you don't put, with the exception of maybe the earnest money deposit, you're not putting out any money, and any money, any fees or anything like that is actually added on to the mortgage. And that's why it's so high. Now, keep in mind, and this is something that I learned when I used the VA, is that if the equity goes down, then I could find myself in a negative equity situation. However, I was fortunate enough to find a property that actually appreciated in value. And plus, in the other videos, we talked about paying more toward the principal so that we can have more equity, if you will. But I digress. So one of the things you also want to do is you want to do a final walkthrough of your property that you're going to be buying, especially if it is new construction. And the reason why I say that is because anything that you find in that walkthrough, you want to make sure that it's documented to it's either fixed right there on the spot, or becomes what we call a warranty issue. So your final walkthrough, if you need to take somebody with you, make sure you do not skip that step. Do that final walkthrough. So in closing, if you have a lender, I would say expect to spend about maybe 45 minutes to an hour signing documents. Now, the title company is responsible for getting the documents to the lender at least 3 business days. I believe it's 3 business days before closing. So a lot of times, if the lender doesn't have all of the information they need, they sometimes you may have to change the closing date. So just know that you may have to be flexible on that date. But it usually when they're moving it, it's because the lender didn't get what they needed. Do you have any questions, Madame?
Uh, whew, no, oh, I'm ready to get my keys. No, but it's so important that and we said this in joking, but it's so important that we not be so ready to get it that we miss something in the final walkthrough or in the papers that you're signing with the fees or something that might be missing. So it's very important. I would agree to have that person with you. I would have Auntie Dana or a Damon with me to be able to make sure that I'm understanding of everything, but as well as not that that's something that I'm not missing, that I might have missed along the way. So I definitely in the final walkthrough, that's the entire house, making sure everything is good, everything is well. So I'm good. This is amazing information. I hope you guys have shared this and or sent this link to a friend that wants to be able to purchase a home, or they might want to already have a home and want to purchase another home or want to be able to go through this process. So this is a clear-cut way. It's so good. It's super clear, and I'm super grateful to be here again. So thank you.
Okay, well, I just appreciate that you've taken the time to actually ask questions. And I know that there are going to be some questions that come in after this video. I fully expect it to, and which is really, really good because now it's time to close on your house and get them keys. Now, again, I would ask that you look to spend 45 minutes to an hour reviewing documents because there's going to be a lot of them. And if you have any questions, don't be shy about asking them. And I would like to, hopefully we can get a title company, excuse me, that can come in to kind of give an idea of the type of documents that people are going to be signing, because it can be scary and it can be intimidating because they're like, sign here, sign here, sign here. And it's like, whoa, what is all of this stuff? So I look forward to getting a title company on so that we can have these conversations. So that's all I have. Now, did I answer all of the terms that you had a list of? Because I know you had a list of terms, and you're like, well, what does this mean? What does this mean? So if you have any,
Absolutely.
fire away.
There are definitely more terms, but what I do know is that there's going to be a part two. Yes, guys, there's going to be a part two because I have more terms and we are out of time. But I have more terms to be able to want to be able to understand fully, but the ones that that you've given on today were the beginning of where I wanted to be able to the easy, the things that I'm like, okay, APR, I need to know what your these are the things we must know, guys. So for this on today, yes, but I do have some more terms that I want us to be able to go over. So make sure you guys tune in for part two of terms you need to know for your first home buying process. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be amazing, and make sure you share it with a friend. Back to you, Auntie Dana.
All right, everyone. This is Me Inc. So not only do you buy properties for yourself, but also we want to use the smart techniques that people use in business to make those good quality decisions. As I said before, buying a home is not difficult if you have the right team together and you have the right information. So, everyone, have a great weekend. Review this video as many times as you need to. Any questions or comments that you have, we'll put in the description the Holland's home team point of contact information. And as my Millennial Mogul Ariel said, you want to stay tuned for that part 2. Everyone, have a great weekend and talk to you soon.